afternoon, it's 4 p.m. in Central Europe and it's Space Café WebTalk time. Our Space Café WebTalk, 33 minutes with Davide Petrillio, I hope that's pronounced now correctly, will begin soon. Thanks for joining us for our talk about is there enough room for the use in the European space sector. As always, we appreciate your participation and your ongoing feedback. As you know, SpaceWatch.Global is a Europe-based online platform for information in and about space and new space activities in a geopolitical context. And I would like to thank all our private and corporate supporters that showed their commitment to keeping our independent journalism alive. And we really appreciate that. I know many of you are already familiar with our website, our bi-weekly and daily newsletters, and the Space Café podcast. The latest one will feature tomorrow morning Laura Todd of Airbus about space exploration. We also have new exciting episodes in the Space Café radio every Monday and Thursday. Absolute worth listening. Last ones with Severin Meister of Rivada Space Networks and Carrie Timmons of Lockheed Martin. We also keep our fan shop open online for you to support us actively and become a space watcher. And if you've missed any of our previous web talks, we have an archive available on our website in the event section and on YouTube. So, my guest today is someone who holds nothing less than the hope of the next generation in his hand. I know it might sound a bit pathetic, but I think it is the reality. A very warm welcome to Davide Petrillio here in the Space Café. Welcome. Let me say a few words about you, Davide, to introduce you to our audience. Davide has currently been appointed as the Executive Director of the SGAC, the Space Generation Advisory Council, and he holds a Master's in Aerospace Engineering from the University of Padova, and his professional career brought him to London as a business manager for Alten and Milano as a business analyst for Accenture. And previously, he was a team leader at the FELDs experiment by the European Space Agency. And moreover, since October last year, he has been elected as a Vice President for Education and Workforce Development of the IAF, the International Astronautical Federation. And it sounds like you are the perfect fit for our talk today. What a surprise. Welcome, Davide, in the Space Café again. Let's kick it off. What else can you tell us about you, or what would you like us to know about you? Tell us a bit more about yourself. What is your space journey, or journey to space SGAC, whatever it is?
Thank you, Thorsten. Thank you so much. I just wanted to say, first of all, thank you very much for the welcome. Thank you very much for the invitation to be here. It's a really great privilege and honor to be here and of course, have this chat together with you within the Space Café. So thank you very much for the invitation once again. So what I can say more about myself, I would say that this is usually my icebreaker. I guess that maybe, some people heard about it already, but I always want to say it because I think it's a nice story to share. So I'm an aerospace engineer, as you said, but in my life, I never wanted to be an aerospace engineer because I wanted to be an airplane pilot. So my dream was to be an airplane pilot within the army in Italy. And with that, I did all the exams and everything in order to be part of it. But unfortunately, at the end, I got rejected because my legs are 1 centimeter longer than the standard requirements. And so for that centimeter, honestly, at that time I said, okay, I'm really good in math, I'm really good in physics, I have the passion for aviation, I have the passion for space, and so let's study aerospace engineering in order to make the airplanes bigger. So it's a nice story to share, but that's how I started my journey to space within aerospace engineering. I studied aerospace engineering with all the experiences that you mentioned, with my different job experiences, as well as bringing me at the moment in which I am right now as SGAC Executive Director.
Great, Cool. So just 1 centimeter that held you back. Let's come straight to our point today. I mean, as Artemis is still waiting on the launch pad for a few more days, but does the use have a chance in the European space sector, as so many of the Sputnik, Apollo generation are about to retire?
Great question, and I'm really happy to be here and give my answer from my experience within SGC. So really quickly, as you know, SGC is a global organization representing more than 21,000 students and young professionals from 18 to 35 years old from all over the world. And with this experience within SJC, something that I noticed and that I really want to share here together with you, together with the audience, is that we are realizing, especially this year as within SJC, that, with all the partners with whom we are collaborating, that there is a really huge demand at the moment in searching for talents. But not only, this is something else that I noticed within my experience as executive director of SJC, is that there is at the moment a gap between the young generation and, let me say, the people that are really experts, but soon that are going to retire. So there is this gap at the moment in the middle that the companies, space agencies, again, that I noticed within my experience, are trying to fill. And so because of that, they are really looking at the moment to search for talents, for young professionals, for students, especially during this period. And the offer is really, really high. So from my point of view, something that I wanted to share here is also an advice for the youth following this topic, because I want to share my experience. My experience was really in a situation in which, like, between jobs, I was applying for different jobs within the space field as an aerospace engineer. And I sent so many CVs, so many applications without getting, real proper answers. And after this experience, I realized how much the network at the end is really important. So the answer, let me say, to your question, like, do the youth have a chance to build their career within the space sector? I think there is at the moment. There are the opportunities there because of the real big offer that at the moment the space sector is giving to the young people. But on the other hand, it's also important for the young people to understand that the network is really the key for building your space career. So definitely the skills are important. Definitely the academic background is important. Definitely, soft skills as well are important. But the network will really be the key fundamental pillar to then start building your career step by step. And I can really share many more examples later on, but I really noticed how you can build your career within the space sector and arrive at the point in which you think that you reached your objective with thanks to the network that one person that then will bring you to another person that then will bring you to another person. And that was also, let me say, the secret for me that made me arrive at the point in which I'm here.
Okay. Sahana, we will come to your question. Great question about the education. We will cover it in a bit. But let's compare, first of all, where we in Europe stand. I mean, you are, as I mentioned before, are the executive director of a global organization. Again, I think there are SGAC people on all continents. If you compare Europe with the US or Asia, where do we stand? Are any thoughts on that?
Good question. Thank you, Thorsten. And yeah, it's true. So within SGC, as I mentioned, we are 21,000 members in 165 countries. So we are really spread all over the world. And I want to say as well that I'm lucky with this job to see the different cultural perspectives, to see as well the different demand from the different, let me say, regions of the world. And something that I noticed, especially within this job, is that I don't want to say that there is a gap between, let me say, between the different regions, because each region is really touching lots of different points. But something that I noticed that I wanted to provide here within this specific talk together with you, Thorsten, is that in Europe, at the moment, we really have lots of important assets, like, from a scientific point of view, from a technical point of view. But something that I noticed that, it's something that will be fundamental somehow, will be relevant to increase a bit more within the space sector. And again, there is always room to improve, also, personally as individuals, but also, talking about a region itself. It's something that I noticed that is the key word, that is inspiration. So there are other regions of the world in which I noticed that when you provide inspirational activities, there is much more engagement from the youth in that specific field. For example, human spaceflight. So in Europe, we are doing activities for human spaceflight, but not so much maybe compared with in other regions. And with the human spaceflight, we are realizing how much it's becoming inspirational for the global community, for the youth, to be much more involved within the space sector. But not only. For example, a really great example that I want to mention, for example, of what happened in Europe, and I tell you from my experience within SGC, because there was a huge engagement. It was the ESA astronaut selection campaign that happened recently. So with the ESA astronaut selection campaign, there was a huge interest from our SGC members in being involved with this. They did lots of webinars, they did events around this program. And this is something that I mean, like providing inspiration. So this is something that I think is a difference maybe between Europe and other regions in which we are moving on in the right direction, but we can definitely, improve, making sure that we can provide this. Concluding really shortly, I also want to say that, and maybe we will talk about it later, but somehow it's also important to consider the fact that if you put high-level positions to young people, this also will provide inspiration, because it's something like, wow, there is this person at 30, 35 years old that is the CEO of a company, that is the director of an institution, So I also have the chance to make this happen if I really want to make it happen. So this is also something that I would say would be really, fundamental to consider. On the other hand, thinking about also what I mentioned before compared to the other regions.
But do you have examples of use in higher positions? I mean, we know from our networks that many graduates are starting their own companies. I mean, when we look into the new space sector, there are CEOs, CXOs of the companies, because the companies are very, very small at one stage, and then they might grow. So, but do you have examples in your organization where people were really positioned on high level? I mean, I made the experience in the Middle East, especially in the UAE, that they really trusted the young generation. So Salam Al-Mari, Sarah Amiri, Sumaya, and so on. I mean, and they're now in really top-level leadership positions.
Yeah, it's true. It's a really good question, Thorsten. And honestly, what you mentioned about the Middle East is a really great example that I'm providing as well, usually when I'm doing other presentations. And so far in Europe, as you mentioned, definitely the first example is, new space companies. We have, different CEOs that, cover these type of positions where they're young. But there are also some institutions, space agencies, in which there are, some directors that have also an age, let me say, relatively young. For example, I mean, there are some space agencies that we are all aware in which we have directors that are young. And for me, this is something that is extremely valuable, because it really provides a way for the young people to believe that also, not only within new space companies, but also within institutional, within space agencies and so on, there is this opportunity. So I saw this opportunity. There is always way to improve. There is always way to grow. I think we're moving on the right direction, knowing that they can believe in the youth as well.
Wonderful. And thank you very much to all of you that are being very active in the Q&A. So we will go through all your questions, because they are brilliant. So I couldn't think of such brilliant questions. Let's talk about the readiness level, and that goes along with the question of Sahana. Is the youth rightly equipped to enter this market, or is there a lack of education? And Sahana asks specifically, do you see a skill gap between university curriculum offered and jobs needed from the aerospace industry? If yes, do you think we should bridge the gap? System engineering jobs, for instance, or so. So,
great question.
Is the youth well equipped?
Great question. No, great question, and somehow let me say my answer will also let me say cover both questions that that have been asked. So I definitely think that of course the baseline is university. Then from university, then you start to build your career. On the other hand, this is something that I really noticed within my experience, and I hope that sharing my experience will answer somehow the question. As I said, I never wanted to be an aerospace engineer, but I studied aerospace engineering. So when I finished my academic career within the university, after the university, I realized that I never wanted to be an engineer. And something that I knew personally as myself, it was I really know that myself, I am skilled in business, management, sales, international relationships, this type of activities. Perfect. So what am I going to do now that I have a degree in aerospace engineering? And so the path that I decided to take was having different jobs in front of me that I knew personally were bringing me to the right job that I wanted to have in the future. So you have also to project yourself like, okay, what's the job that I want to get in the future, like in the next 5 years, in the next 10 years? And what's the path that I need to take in order to arrive there? And the different job experiences that I had before arriving at the job that I have right now brought me to, let me say, the job that I have right now that I love. And I really love it 100%. And this is something that is really the expression of myself. But in order to arrive here, it took me 5 to 6 years. And I'm lucky to say at 30 years old that I love my job. So something that I wanted to say is really experience that really will do the rest. Try to make sure that you can build your career doing different job opportunities that you know will bring at the point in which you want to arrive. So definitely, this is my first advice that I would like to give again to the young generation from my experience. In terms of lack of education, I don't think there is a really big lack of education, especially right now after COVID, because we noticed how many online opportunities are available. It's just a matter of managing your time, understand if you have the time to make it happen, and understand then what are the different opportunities that are out there to increase your educational skills and make sure that then you can arrive at the point within your career that you want to get.
Let's turn the angle to the other side. What is your call as representative of the youth to the current leadership teams in the global companies? Because I don't want to say the old guys are. So what's your call of action to them? And I can tell you what Chiara in an interview told us. We just have to leave. But I think we don't want to go that far.
It's a great question. It's a great question. Let's say experts. I will call them experts. Not so as you say. So I want to share my experience here as well, because last year we have been invited by I say a general institution, let me say in Europe, that was asking us, what can Europe can do better for the youth in the space sector? So I was invited there to do a presentation and provide a presentation on behalf of HGC. And at the end, before going there and making this presentation, of course, I shared this opportunity within the community of SGC, asking for their feedback. Then I collected them all, and I realized at the end that it's important from the current leadership point of view to get the input from the young people. So what does it mean? It means that so far, it's not true that the current leadership is not considering the youth at all. I just want to say that they should consider the recommendation from the youth much more, because thanks to that experience that I had last year in 2021, some programs were built thanks to the, let me say, couple of recommendations that I was providing, during that presentation. So it's just an example saying to the current leadership, please just consider the fact that if you want to build the future for the next 10 to 20 years, especially within the space sector where we are planning things for the next 20 years to come, it's important to consider, okay, who are the people that can provide these inputs to build the future in the next 10 to 20 years? It's us, it's the youth. And it's definitely, we are the ones that can provide recommendations. I don't want to say that we are the decision makers. I want to say that we are the one provide the recommendation, listen to us, get those recommendations, and then try to build a strategy for the next 10 to 20 years in the future for the European space sector. So yeah, that would be my advice, let me say, to the current leadership, to the experts. Yeah.
I think we can only repeat this message again and again, that it's heard even outside our sector, because I don't think it's just a sector-specific thing. One sidestep into diversity here. Does diversity matter for the space sector, in your opinion, and why?
Good question. Good question. I really think that at the moment, diversity is really a cornerstone of the different, within the space sector in general. Now, diversity, diversity, inclusion, inclusivity is definitely, I would say, the meaning of diversity is quite complex because it touches different points. It can be definitely, nationality, culture, religion, orientation, as well as, physical or mental disabilities, language, educational background. There are really lots of different things that we need to consider for diversity. So, because of that, definitely a dedicated approach is needed. I want to say that globally, we're moving on the right direction in terms of diversity. And an example that I wanted to share here, that it's something that for me touches a lot, because we are doing this at SGSE. So within SGSE, we have different environments in which our members can work on specific topics. These environments are called project groups. And there is a specific project group that is focused on diversity, gender equality, and inclusion. And the real, let me say, objective that they want to reach within this project group is that they want to create a community, a network of young people to touch the point of diversity and inclusion. What does it mean, touch the point of diversity and inclusion? Getting different objectives, like raising awareness, not only within our community, but also to the outside community of what is the topic of diversity and inclusion within the space sector. Then another objective, for example, tackle concrete returns raised by minorities, for example. So what are the situation at the moment that we have, for example, in terms of minorities, or provide the recommendations, like we get so many requests from companies, from agencies on the topic of diversity in terms of, okay, what's the point of view from the youth in getting recommendation in terms of diversity and so on. And then, of course, providing inspirational background, providing, recommendations, documents, lessons learned from different activities. So I really wanted to say that thanks to this project group, thanks to the different activities that we do at HGC, especially within this project group, we see that there is a huge demand as well from the space sector globally. So this is something that for me is relieving, it's important, and I think that we are all moving on the right direction through, again, this specific topic.
Thank you. I think we covered a lot of ground, and before we jumping onto the SGC and the IAC, I would like to go to jump to a few of the questions that we have here from our wonderful audience. So, Mark, one of the Marks, the one with K, a stroke, asks, so what cultural shifts do you expect to see in the industry as the average age gets younger, and what impact will that have?
Good question, Mark. Thank you so much for asking this. So, something that I think, the question is, do you see that there are cultural shifts in the future within the industry? Because it's not so necessary to consider the fact that, yeah, definitely there are cultural changes, in the industry. on the other hand, especially within our generation, we are really living in a globalized world. And thanks to this globalization, I'm really wanting to say, especially, for example, within my experience, I feel lucky to be and have this opportunity to know different cultures and get the different perspectives in order to create a better environment, inclusive, and so on within the industry. So from my point of view, the question is there could be shifts, but if the individuals within the different companies in the industry welcome the different cultural shifts, this is only an added value for the benefit and the growth of the company.
Okay. I would like to take the question from Anna. And we heard her last week in the Space Café Israel talking about the student satellite projects. So what do you think about projects for satellite launches by pre-university students? Is it something that is in your sphere already, or are you starting with SGSC or in a bit of elder age?
So within SGC, our members can be part of SGC between 18 and 35 years old. So yeah, that's the age. So however, I can definitely answer this question as well from my experience, because all these projects are satellite, but it doesn't necessarily have to be satellite launches, or it can be also something different. All these projects for students that are below 18 are fundamental, because I'm coming back to the point as I mentioned before. It's not a matter of, it's important the outcome of the project, but it's also the experience that you're getting in order to arrive at the end of the outcome of the project. So what's the objective? The objective is to provide inspiration, to get many more students that are inspired by the space field, because this is how we're building the future in the next 40 to 50 years. So we definitely need to have this type of projects in order to get many more students and young people, let me say below 18, that are willing to be part of the space sector and make sure that this can happen.
Cool. The other mark raises the, I would say, $1 million question. How can the SGAC inspire outsiders from the space industry from the importance of space?
That's our mission. That's our mission. Thank you so much, Mark. Great question. We can stay here other 33 minutes just for this answer, but long story short, this is our mission at SGC. So the two missions at SGC are, and the first one is definitely to create a network of students and young professionals within the space field, and make sure that we can take this network of students and young professionals and bring it to the space industries and to the space agencies. So this is our first mission. The second mission is that our members do lots of different activities within SGSC that provide recommendations to the space industries, to the space agencies. And we do this really through lots of different events, we do project groups, we do scholarships. All of these are activities that provide recommendations that are given not only to students, to space industries and space agencies, but also the United Nations. And that's why SGSC born, because SGSC born in 1999, with the objective of supporting as well at the United Nations and providing recommendation within our status of permanent observer. But definitely happy to answer offline as well this question and telling you what are all the opportunities within SGSC.
Come on, I don't leave you from the hook here, because Christoph is putting up an, I would say, absolute perfect follow-up question. The space domain intersects with many industries, from Earth observation uses to robotic mining, energy markets, and so on. Do you consider also getting familiar with some of these industries that will need a bridge to space?
Great question as well, this one, Christoph. Thank you so much for that. And so the answer here is that true, space domain intersects with lots of industries, and I would say that this is really the added value of the space industry. And somehow this is also the experience that I'm getting from SGC. Like at SGC, we have a really huge pool of talents, and all these talents are, let me say, 70% students and professionals in the space field, but 30% are students and professionals that are not working in the space field. Why? Because they have a passion for space. And so because of that, we are also creating this network in order to make sure that really the space sector intersects people that have a passion for space and people that study space. And so because of that, I really think that there is this potential intersection, and we are making this happen within SGC. I hope that I answer your question, Christoph.
If not, we will come back to you. So
yes,
about networking, and I think that's a great point, and also looking at our time to come to our next event. So next week, no, in 2 weeks, the 20s, already 20s, our SGC, Space Generation Congress, is coming up in Paris, for those that doesn't know that. So what can we expect from the biggest SGAC event this year?
Great. So Christoph said the perfect answer. So thank you, Christoph. And for the Space Generation Congress, so within SGAC, we do lots of different events from all over the world, but this is the flagship event. So this is the most important event we do every year. It's always in conjunction with the IAC, that, as you know, will happen in Paris in 3 weeks. And the Space Generation Congress allows 150 delegates to come and discuss about really different topics in space through activities that are happening during these 3 days Congress. The theme of this year Congress is diversity, access, and inclusion, by the way. So talking about diversity that we were talking about it before. So we really want to touch all the possible aspects of diversity, access, and inclusion through experts, through keynote speeches, through working group topics, as well as representations of the delegates from all over the world. Indeed, I can tell you we received, for example, this year, 350 applications to join our event. And all the 150 delegates are coming from 75 nationalities. So it's 75 nationalities in 150 delegates. It's incredible. And it's also incredible to mention that 57 of the experts that are coming to our Congress are women. And this is also something that is also important and great to mention. So the Congress will be fantastic. The organizing team is doing a wonderful job. And of course, I'm sure it will be a really great success before the IAC.
Cool. A few days later, the IAC will open its doors, of course. So what would you like to tell us, or what would you like to tell the youth what to do there, if they're not just looking for something very specific and know their way already?
Great question. I wanted to say that, so I consider myself somehow as a humble person, but somehow it's important to share as well my experience, because my first IAC was in 2015 in Jerusalem. And since then, I realized the huge potential that the IAC has in order to build your network. And then step by step, I realized, years from years within the IAC. So from 2015 to 2021, just as a single normal student, then I became vice president. So in 6 years, I was able to arrive at this point. So what does it mean? It means that the IAC, from my point of view, is really the environment for networking opportunities. And this is the advice that I really want to give to the youth. Like any type of question, any type of doubt, you want to grow your network, you want to grow your skills, go to the people, go straight to them, ask them their question, because I'm sure that they will be open and happy to answer any question you might have. And if you see myself as well during the IAC, please feel free to pass by, stop me, ask me all the questions that you might have, because this is really the secret that I learned within these 6 IACs that I did, since 2015, in order to build your network. So definitely build your network as much as you can. On the other hand, there will be also during the different evenings, I can mention already, Saturday, Monday, and Tuesday evening, there will be 3 events dedicated for students and professionals. So SGC will collaborate with them, together with the IAF, together with other organizations. They will be open to everyone. You just need to have a student or your professional badge. So come there, join us, know how to build your network as well, and know as well what are all the opportunities available for all of you within the space sector.
Does SGAC has its own booth at the IAC?
We do. Please pass by as well the SGAC booth, and you will see also what are all the opportunities within SGAC.
Great. Last question. So what's next in a month from now? What can we expect this fall? And I mean, especially before the ministerial conference, what we in Europe are looking to at the moment.
Yeah, so there will be different events that will happen from now until the ministerial, and I really think that all those opportunities are important opportunities, to continue building the European space sector, but especially for the youth, to see if there is the chance to attend these conferences. So definitely, as we spoke about it, World Satellite Business Week, the ISC 2022 in Paris. But then not only at the beginning of October, there will be the EU Space Week in Prague, organized, together with, as we are all aware, with the USPA, the European Commission, in collaboration with the Czech presidency. And another important conference that, I wanted to mention, because I know that they're doing a really wonderful job. It's also the Autumn Conference that is happening in Vienna, organized by the European Space Policy Institute. This will happen in the middle of October. And the topic is space economy and commerce. So the way ahead for Europe. This is also another wonderful congress organized by SP every year. It's an annual congress, really well organized by them. And then last point, yes. Sorry?
Of course you have to say that you are sitting in their office.
We are at SP, so it's important to mention as well. No, but they're really doing a wonderful job. So it's important to mention it as well, because they're really doing a fantastic job for the European space sector. The last one that will be just right after the ministerial, but there is also the new space economy in Rome, organized by Fiera Roma and Fondazione Amaldi. And the topic is sustainability as a game changer. And SGC will also collaborate with this specific congress. So there will be opportunities. And I'm really happy to hear that they're also touching different topics on that.
Wonderful. Our time is up. I think we stayed more or less in the limits. Thank you very much for your time on this wonderful talk. Thank you everyone who has provided their questions to us. And with that, I'm giving back to Chiara.
Thank you so much. It's really nice to hear what's being done, and I definitely look forward to the IAC next month. So before we end for today, I'd love to give a brief rundown of our next upcoming events. So on the 2nd of September, we'll have our next event by the Space Arbitration Association by Laura Selinsky, where her and her panel try to answer the question, can space arbitration protect space investments? Then on the 9th of September, we'll have our next Space Café Canada by the wonderful Dr. Jessica West, who'll be talking with Professor Ram Jaku and David Kuan-Wei Chen on the newly published McGinn Manual of International Law. Following that, on the 13th of September, we have a very exciting 33 minutes with the founders of the Space Communication Alliance, the next big thing in space comms. So stay tuned for that. Then on the 27th of September, we have our next 33 minutes with Dennis Stone of the World Space Week. And just a day later, on the 28th of September, our next Space Café Israel by Meidad Pariente with his guest Yossi Yamin of Space Pharma. And a day later still, on the 29th of September, we'll have our next Space Café Italy by Dr. Emma Gatti, who will be talking with Simonetta Kelly, which will be in Italian. As always, all our events are going to be online on Eventbrite. And as always, we love to hear your feedback, so please check in with us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Don't forget to sign up for our daily and our bi-weekly newsletters. And if you want to treat yourselves to something special, become a Space Watcher today, or help us out in the supporter program. Thank you again to Davide for this inspiring and insightful talk and for being our guest. And thanks again to the entire team behind the scenes for doing that great job week in and week out. I hope you all stay safe and stay healthy. I hope to see many of you in Paris in the next month for all the great events. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for being so active in the Q&A, for asking all your questions. Hopefully see you in the next weeks. And in the meantime, visit our website, follow us on social media, and don't forget, become a Space Watcher. Thank you.
Thank you.